Hi there, I'm Astrid Ho. Sorry about that. I've had some technical issues, and I am hoping I have solved that problem. I guess Akshata, if you do see me, can you let me know that you see me? Yay! Says hi, Astrid. Wonderful. Thanks, Akshata, for helping me with technical troubleshooting. So, like I said, I'm Astrid Ho. Hi. So I was invited by Arts Etobicoke to do the Artist Studio virtual tour. And so I wanted to actually, first of all, thank Arts Etobicoke for inviting me to do this talk and tour. And also thank you to Akshata, who is the gallery and program manager there. She's wonderful, very patient. So I'm actually not in my home. I'm in my studio. I have a shared space, which I share with three other artists. And we're near the Junction area in Toronto. I do have some artworks and art stuff in my studio or in my home. However, the studio is where I'm able to work on other projects and also just leave my stuff lying around, which I love. And yeah, lovely wave and hi to everybody that's joining us now. So, so I wanted to mention a little bit about myself. I work primarily in printmaking and painting. I've actually been a professional artist for over 20 years. And I've also worked in arts administration and as a workshop instructor for over 18 years. And yeah, and I just, want to welcome you to my humble studio. And so some of the artists the three artists whose studio I share with, I want to shout out to them. I don't know if they're on this, but if you are, Sonia Philman, who's one of my studio mates, and Suzanne Nacha and Megan Price, whose studio we'll see in a moment when I give you the grand tour. Yeah, and actually because of COVID, we are working in isolation, so I have the studio all to myself, which is amazing, but I do miss my studio mates, so I miss you guys, our girls. So a little bit more about me. I went to OCAD and received my associate back in the 90s. Yes, 1997. I'm kind of dating myself. And and then I received my Bachelor of Fine Arts in 2010. And at that point, OCAD became a university, so I got my bachelor from there. During my last year at OCAD, the college, I actually went to Florence and did the Florence Study Abroad program. And that really changed the way I conceived my art practice. I went from painting to printmaking. And then when I graduated, I joined Open Studio, and I've been a member of Open Studio, which is a printmaking center in Toronto, in downtown Toronto. And I became a member there since 1998. So shortly after I graduated, I became a member. And in fact, I would say, I think in 2002, 2003, I became the print sales and archive manager. And I stayed there till like 2018. And then I still am an artist member. In fact, I brought some of the prints that I've printed at Open Studio. And yeah, and then since 2018, I've been teaching at various or numerous places, including Open Studio. I've taught at Art City in St. Jamestown. I've done a workshop with members at Burlington Arts Association, and I've done actually quite a bit. I've done a lot of workshop stuff. And also, too, I was a visiting artist for 2 consecutive years. And then including earlier this year up until the COVID-19 shutdown, but it was great. I was still doing wonderful teaching with the girls there, and also actually I've taught with Arts Etobicoke for a year and a half. So yeah, I think it's been really great since then. So I'm also the board chair of Cultural Pluralism in the Arts Movement Ontario. I've also curated and co-curated exhibitions, and my most recent one being the Gladstone Hotel's Come Up to My Room 2020. And that was a co-curatorial project in which I worked with Megan Feely and Lee Petrie. Sorry about that. And Lee Petrie, and that was a group exhibition of multidisciplinary artworks that intersected design and art. And I think like one of my favorite things about co-curating and also organizing exhibitions is working with different and various creative people. So yeah, so I'm waving and saying hi to everybody. Thanks for coming, everybody, so far. And sorry again that I'm late because this is my first Instagram live TV, so bit of a learning curve, I would say. But here I am. Anyways, so and also working with SPAMO, or that's the anagram of Cultural Pluralism, the arts movement, have been just fantastic, meeting artists of various disciplines, writers and dancers. And in fact, that's where I also met Akshata as well. She was an artist who I worked with in one of the symposiums that SPAMO did, or SPAMO organized. So, and currently I'm in a couple of group exhibitions at Propeller Art Gallery. Currently I'm in a couple of group exhibitions, one of them being at Propeller Online Art Gallery for their 25th anniversary exhibition. And so I co-founded the gallery, and they invited me to exhibit some of my works along with 70 other artists, so it's a pretty lengthy list. And I'm also currently showing in a group exhibition called the Ontario Miniature Print Exhibition 2020 at Print London in London, Ontario, and just to mention is the last week. Yeah, so if you're wondering what am I looking at, well, there's some questions that Arts Etobicoke had posed to me, and I'm just reading some of those questions, and I'm reading my answers as well, because trying to remember what I had said or thought of. So I thought I'd run through some of those questions, and then we're going to take a look at my space. Yeah, so the first question was, what is something people don't know about you? So I'm not sure if everyone knows about me, and it's something that I don't really share often, but I actually studied architecture in my early years after high school. Did a little stint of that. I still am fascinated with architecture, so you'll see some of my works, and you'll see how I am somewhat fascinated, and I still continue to be. I think something about structures and even like drafting. Actually, I'll show you some of my drafting assignments because I took a class in set design last fall. So what is my go-to meal that I make for guests? Well, if you do come over, I guess like when we can start having groups of people over, or larger groups of people, the barbecue is my go-to for the summertime, and then every other time when it's not summer, it's noodles. Anything with noodles, a noodle dish. So if you come over, I'll probably make a noodle dish, or we'll barbecue. So yeah. And what do you do in your spare time when you're not creating art And to be honest, every spare time I get, I try to create art. Either that or I do a lot of my own self-employment administration stuff, things that is not very exciting, but it's a necessity. But the fun thing I've been doing lately, because we've had a lot of free time or spare time, is learning how to sew. I started to learn how to sew. Yep. Barbecue noodle. Yes, barbecue and noodles. Yeah. So yeah, I've learned how to sew, and actually I brought something. I've been making masks for friends and family. I'm sure some people have actually done some sewing for friends and family. This is actually my first time sewing. Well, this isn't my first time, but learning how to make masks is the first time I've ever learned to sew on fabric, because I've been sewing, well, I've been trying to sew on paper. So I somehow have moved to fabric, and now my next project, or self-taught project, is a skirt. So we'll see how that goes. And yeah, and you can learn so much online and on YouTube. So it's like, it's wonderful. And also my mother from afar has also taught me how to sew. So she's a sewing expert. So what do you do? Oh no, we already said that. What is the most meaningful art experience you've had? Well, you know what? There's been a lot. So I don't think we have enough time for me to list all of them. Definitely working with Arts Etobicoke has been very meaningful. When I did teach at the Cloverdale Mall with some of the with the seniors, arts and crafts, and also with the kids, I thought that was extremely meaningful, because a lot of the participants have never worked in printmaking before, and I just love opening them to like a whole different medium or arts medium. So that has been very meaningful. Like when people's eyes light up after they see a print, it's priceless. And I think the most recent exhibition, the co-curatorial exhibition I did with the Gladstone, that has been a very meaningful experience, because I met so many new artists, and working with Megan and Lee was just fantastic. So that was a very meaningful experience as well. So I could go on with all the meaningful experiences, and I think like with any art, it's all meaningful because it's art, basically. It's art. Yeah, I mean, having that opportunity with the Gladstone, I worked with over 20 artists, and then working with the co-curators and then the staff, and also like meeting Christina Zeiler, and also it was just fantastic, and meeting the co-curators from the past, and Pamela Mataru, who also was a co-founder of Come Up to My Room. That was just fantastic. That whole experience was amazing. So another question, why do you think community arts are important? Especially at this time, during the pandemic, where it's really hard for groups of people to gather, to be able to meet virtually I think like community arts is really able to shift from live meetings to virtual meetings, has been really incredible and meaningful as well. And I think like community arts, we're able to connect in so many ways through arts and through culture. And I think that's why it's really important, because then it opens us up to different perspectives and different stories. And at the same time, community arts really like supports and develops artists and their work. And I think like there's just so many things that community arts does, and it really affirms our, our sense of who we are and sense of community. So, and I think that's really important. So, Yeah. So, any questions so far? No? Okay. All right. Oh yes. So I just want to show you all my studio. It's not a huge one. The studio space itself is rather large, but it is sectioned off between the four of us. And I'll give you a really quick pan shot of my studio mates' spaces. So let me just change this to, and I thought I mentioned, so this is where I do a lot of my smaller works. So, and I have a press, which I'll show you in a moment. I also work out of Open Studio, and I do a lot of my larger works there. And sometimes, and I actually, especially now during the COVID-19 pandemic, I am working out of my home space as well. So, and it's a bit of a challenge because we don't really have like an area set up, and my husband is also working from home. So that's why this is not broadcasted, or this is not done at home, because he is working from home. Otherwise, I would show you all the art that I have, which I actually have a lot of art. I actually love collecting other artists' works. Yeah, so let me just flip this around and I'll show you our studio. All right, so starting off, this is our storage space. Yes, it's got a lot of stuff. What artist does not have a lot of stuff? And this is, I would say this is probably a third of my stuff, or a third of it is my stuff, and 2/3 of it are my co-artists or my studio mates' stuff. So it's great to have a handy dandy shelf. Love it. And as I move along in my studio, or in the studio space, my studio mate Sonia, this is her space here. It's got a nice little perch, or it's like a little perch with steps going up. And then we have Suzanne Nacha. This is her studio. She's a painter and also a ceramicist, video artist. She does all kinds. And currently, she and my other studio mate, Megan Price, are working on an exhibition that's going to take place at YYZ in the fall. And this is Megan Price. That's a loom. It's pretty awesome. She's got a loom. And then we move to my space. So my area, I've got 3 tables. I love working from the tables. I actually work on all 3 tables. It's hard to believe. And I do have a lot of things. I do clean. I try to clean. So this is my little press. I have a nice little press. I do a lot of small monotypes. So much of my work is monotype printmaking. I've also started working on some dry points. And it's wonderful. I love this. I love the size of this press. And then we move on to my table. Now I use primarily aqua inks because I love the fact that it has a really long drying time on plastic. And in fact, I just leave the ink. This is the beauty of having your own studio space. I know I am really grateful for that. But I just leave my inks on the plastic. I do cover it at the end of the day, just so the dust doesn't sit on it when I come in. But I love the fact that, well, a little really comes a long way with these inks. And what I do is I take the inks and apply it on a plexiglass or well, this is a dry point gauge Mylar. This is just sort of like the residue that's on the Mylar, so it doesn't have fresh ink on it. but actually, this has already been printed, so this is actually the print itself. And much of my work, I do like 2 streams of work, one stream being abstract, and there are, although lately I've been doing a mixture of abstract and representational work, work that comes from, based on images from my phone, because I haven't been able to go out too much. But I'm able to do, and I thought I mentioned too, like this piece, it's got at least 2 or 3 layers on it, of ink on it. So, and moving on, sorry. This is, yes, you get to see my setup. Yeah, so this is actually, that piece is the piece that I just showed you earlier. That's part 1 of 2. That's a diptych. So this is the other side of the work. And I'm waving back to everybody that's saying hi. So that's the other panel that I worked on. And then this is a piece that is interesting because it's actually a picture of my mom. And I'll show you, this is the ink that's on the Plex or the Mylar. And that print is over here, so I'll show you in a moment. But it's funny how I decided to put a mask on her. And I don't know what it was. I did the background, the figure, and everything, and the face was going to be the last part of my work. And I was having a lot of difficulties with the face. So then, for some reason, I kept cleaning it, and that's what you can do. This is what I love about the Akua inks, or the inks that I use. I'm able to clean it off and just reapply it with a cotton swab. Well, for some reason, this sounds kind of corny, but it spoke to me, and maybe it's the time that we're in. I realized it looks really good with a mask, because it actually suddenly, like, I felt really much more connected with it. This being one of the pieces I did during the COVID-19 shutdown. And in fact, I no longer, once I put a mask on her, I don't know why, but I no longer had the anxiety of not getting her face right, or you know, of trying to get her face right. And it actually, like, it became just something very, I guess, relevant in our time. So moving to the other part. So this is also my other table. Is a drafting table. It's got all sorts of things underneath it, but it does prop up, although right now it's got art on top of it. I love working on washi, and I don't know anybody else who loves washi, but props to the Japanese paper place, one of my favorite places in Toronto. This is on Japanese paper, and these little dog heads actually are printed with lithography, not here. I printed these at Open Studio a while back, and then I hand sewed them. They were printed on I think it's a Thai paper. Anyways, I bought these a while back, the paper, and then I printed them, and I sewed them together. And then I started doing some experimentation with konnyaku. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I might sew these as well. You can tell I'm starting to really get into sewing. So it's just, yeah. So I think I might do some sewing. Maybe create some more of these little paper pillows. And then, actually, I'll show the drawing or the prints before I show you the book. But then the fall, I started taking, that's also another one of my pieces. It's a etching on a painting. I did that a while back for the AWOL Square Foot Show. Yeah, I keep name dropping, sorry. So then I took some drafting courses, or just one course. It was the set design course. And this is actually the maquette that I made, the neutral maquette that I made. And the draft, this was the first drafted drawing that I made in the class, which I'm actually quite proud of, because I kind of nerded out on the rendering of the wood. And then moving on to some of the artwork, I actually brought some of this, so my studio does not look like this normally, so I brought some of these from home. But these works that are on the wall, they're actually there. I usually leave them there, so because they're hard to put up onto the wall. And whereas these ones I printed here on my little press, and these were proofs for a little accordion book that I made. And I think I'm gonna, when I have time, although I should have had time, but when I have even more time, I'm gonna make a larger series of the accordion books. And then this is where my architectural, this is also where my architectural work came in handy, or my interest came in handy. This one is based on a photograph I took, and then I abstracted it. And the photograph was in the Hearn power station. This was a while back that I photographed the interior. And then this one is, it's actually the rooftop, sorry, there's a lot of glare, the rooftop of the Birmingham Library in the UK, Birmingham, UK. And for some reason, I became really fascinated with the roof, and I created a whole series. It's an ongoing series, and I think now I might be on to like maybe the 10th image of this rooftop. It's just become this like incredible, I guess, inspiration. So I use shiogami paper and collaged that, or shinkolayed it onto Japanese paper. And then, so as you can see, most of my works are on Japanese paper. So here is that print with the mask of my mother in Florida. She's also, she's holding onto a phone. So I thought it was interesting, like where I ended up, or what I ended up doing with this work. I'm saying hi to everybody that's waving. Yeah, and these prints I created during the COVID-19 shutdown period. And working in isolation, it made me really look at my imagery and develop my composition and my colors. So it looks very simple, like I only printed it once, but actually these all have multiple layers. This is another shiogami, hey, hi Paula. This is another shiogami piece or print. It's been shikolei. And then these are just the beginning of something. So they're going to be the background. I think I'm going to make greeting cards out of them. I know it's really soon to make greeting cards, although it's never too soon. What am I saying? And I think I'm going to do shiogami shinkolei on these as well. And actually, this is how I dry my prints. and it works. It's great. They go dry. So these larger works were printed at Open Studio, and they are monotypes with lithography on Japanese paper. And these works are part of my personal narrative series, and I will be continuing with the series. There's actually more than 3. There's, I think, about 5 or 6. I can't remember. I haven't been to Open Studio in a while because it has been closed during the COVID-19 shutdown, but is open, so I hopefully will be able to go in at some point. But all of these larger works are based on photographs that my father have taken growing up. So I'm still trying to understand why I've chosen these. One of them being I'm doing, oh, thanks. Thanks, Kim Lee, or Kim Lee Ho. So I think part of it is I'm doing these sort of chores or activities that are very sort of Canadian. This one is I think it's the Niagara Falls, the what do you call it? The garden or the greenhouse. Sorry, can't think. Greenhouse in the background. And then this is from our backyard, and we're shoveling snow, but I look like I'm kind of grimacing, so I'm not liking shoveling snow. It's that here I am, and there's a picture. And I think like these really sort of capture the sort of like the ideal sort of Western or Canadian ideal. And then this one is me when I was a child in Hong Kong. So this one is, I thought it was really interesting too, because the repetition of the jacket has, it kind of continues as I grow up. So I think there might be some sewing in these works. It might actually transform into a sewing project. So I really like this because I don't know, there's something vibrant about this figure. I've also made it so they're almost life size, and are there any questions? Let me see. Oh, this thing, it's kind of like, this is my paper rack. So I've got shiogami in here, rolls of Japanese paper, some of my prints, my drafting, some of my proofs. My proofs are in here. Have my paint prints, more paper, more scrap paper. This is actually, I'll show you this. This is my large print. Sorry, it's a little blurry, but it's my large print. It's called Departing New York City, 13-11-07, and it's from 8:59 to 9 o'clock p.m. It's time coded. That was the time code on the photograph that I took. And really, it's based on the photographs that I took just sitting in my airplane seat and looking outside. And that sense, that fleeting sense of departure, and I guess like how the darkness, the nighttime engulfs, or really sort of envelops the whole city. But then there's a lot of movement and vibrancy in the lights from the traffic. So, hi everybody. Let me see if there's anything else. I think that's it. Well, I do have a lot of storage, more storage, and I love storage. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, thanks, Kim Lee Ho. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, you can also, as I mentioned, I do have a website, astridho.com. I also have an Instagram. I'm also on Instagram as well. And in fact, I'll in the comments for this, I'll add all of my social media names or ID. And yeah, I really want to thank you for joining me. I think this will be the end of it. And I really enjoyed talking about my art and then also sharing some of my stories with you. And hopefully maybe we'll become friends on Instagram and you can share your stories with me. Oh, I just noticed a question. Actually, the question was from Miss HLE. Have you found COVID to be more or less inspirational for your work? I would say the first couple of weeks was hard because we couldn't leave our place. And I was trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? Because all of my supplies was in this studio, and what I had was, I guess I could have started just drawing on paper, and that would have been fine. But as you can see, I work with a lot of color, and you know, I'm someone who loves working with colors, so that made it really difficult. So the first 2 weeks, I think I just started to like figure out, okay, what am I going to do? Maybe I'll start making masks. Because I thought that's something to do, or start, you know, writing, start doing my taxes. I did my taxes. And then after the 2 weeks, and I have to say, one of the things was because I had lost my teaching gig because things had shut down and there was no certainty as to when things would open up again. When the government announced the CERB, there was some relief because I really, you know, that really helped significantly because I was thinking, where is all this money going to come from? I had a little bit of money saved up, but I thought, you know, now it's like, what's going to happen? Because when you're working freelance, you don't have EI. So then that really helped with some of the anxieties that I had. And then when I got back in the studio, when I was able to get back in here, I think the other thing was it was difficult because I'm a very social person, and with my studio mates not being here, that made it really difficult for me to work in isolation. Some people love it. Me, it's like I like the social atmosphere, and yeah, and I do miss that. But then I've sort of, I guess I started to just play around, like just do work, because not doing work, but doing the art itself and just really enjoying making. And a lot of the times I'm making work for a particular project. And so I would say in that period, and that was back in late March, probably early April, that's when I sort of decided I'm just going to make something, and it didn't matter what it was. And in fact, I don't think I showed you the works that I'm like, I'm not crazy about them, but I just started doing it, and I was happy I started doing it. So yeah, so thanks for that question, because that was something that's always been on the back of my mind. Yeah, it's true, Kim Lee Ho. It's to focus on the process itself. I think that's what I did, instead of thinking, okay, how does this work conceptually and all that. So it was really great to be able to have that opportunity. So yeah. Yeah, does anyone else have any questions? Okay, so I think I'm going to end this now, although it's been delightful talking to all of you virtually, and thank you for being so patient and sticking around, even though I was a little bit late. And it's my pleasure, Jen Hill. And yeah, it's been delightful, and hope you have a wonderful Tuesday afternoon.